Men of the Infinite. So I don't think you necessarily debunked the cosmological argument for the existence of God, but you certainly showed that it doesn't necessarily prove what the theist may want it to. But regardless, I think the whole argument is kind of irrelevant because if Christianity wants to remain viable in a modern context, what it really needs to do is accommodate itself to um, evolution and our um, scientific cosmology, because the cosmology in the Bible, the biblical cosmology, is no longer in any way, shape, or form, at least when taken literally, a reflection of the facts that we now know about nature and where it came from. So Christianity has a lot of work to do in terms of reinterpreting and giving new meaning to its symbols in our new evolutionary context. I think it can do this, though. Certainly, people like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin have made very valiant efforts to do this. Teilhard was a Jesuit paleontologist who struggled his entire life to synthesize science and spirituality, with Christianity in his case, though a very mystical Christian perspective. Um, and I think, in our modern cosmological context, where we see that the universe is a series of irreversible developments, um, culminating in life on Earth, which is itself a recapitulation, another series of irreversible developments. Um, in this context, we can no longer conceive of God as sort of this cosmic architect existing entirely separate from the universe, who created it as some sort of machine of fixed parts, and then set it into motion. Um, because the universe isn't a machine of fixed parts. It's a process of development. Um, it's a process of genesis. So, the thing about creation is, or any kind of creation story, whether scientific or religious, is that based on our empirical knowledge, um, we see that creation is ongoing. The universe is still developing. It's not finished yet. And we can see in the past, its course of development has moved through these various stages of development, each time increasing in complexity. Um, and so, we can only assume it will continue to do this. Of course, we have knowledge of laws of thermodynamics like entropy, which make it seem like it may not continue to get more complex. But then again, now that we understand far from equilibrium and non-equilibrium systems, we can see how increasing entropy actually also increases complexity. Um, so, in any event, in a modern cosmological context, we need to become panentheist instead of merely theist. A theist seeing God, or the creator and creation, or nature, as entirely separate. Because it's only when you see that picture of the creator and the creation that you need a first cause or an efficient cause to set the creation into motion. If all the purpose is in God and then nature is thus just this machine, the machine could never get started unless God did it. Even Newton, while he gave mathematical descriptions of gravity, could only explain it by saying it was the finger of God. And we've yet to explain gravity to this day. We've got various untestable theories that explain it. We have Einstein's way of describing it, even though we know, um, since there are many forms of geometry, it's difficult to tell whether or not we're just operating with a functional equivalent to the real state when we pick an Einsteinian or Riemannian geometry. So, if we are going to accommodate Christianity to an evolutionary cosmology, we've got to see God as immanent in the created world, though Teilhard wouldn't want to adopt sort of Spinoza's pantheism. God isn't just immanent. The panentheist sees God as including and transcending the universe. And this is a context in which the universe is sort of made of God itself. It's God pouring itself out into what becomes the spatio-temporal continuum. And so, in this new context, we don't need a cosmological argument to still have faith in God, as long as we see God as involved with the process of the unfolding of the universe. Now, I think the reason we would want to bring God into it at all is efficient causation, or mechanical causation, I would argue, is no longer sufficient if we want to explain the universe. We need a material cause. We need to know what it's made of, because we call it energy nowadays, but what the hell does that mean? We can reduce energy to the quantum of action, maybe, and that is in itself implying some sort of telos. So we see that we also need final causes then, and of course, to understand how energy in this cosmos self-organizes into various beings and organisms on our planet, and doubtless other planets as well, we need formal causality as well. So once we've brought teleology back into our understanding of the cosmos, and even if we only remain strictly scientific about it within the laws of thermodynamics, there is, one could argue, a sort of teleology, in the sense that entropy, everything tends toward entropy, which, as I said, doesn't necessarily rule out a tendency towards complexity at the same time. And so in that context, you can begin to talk about, not something supernatural necessarily, but something beyond nature, if by nature we mean efficient, that which exists in the realm of efficient causation alone. Such a realm never existed, and the science that supposed it had explained nature based on the model of some sort of machine was always based more on faith than in evidence. We need more than mechanical causation at the end of the day, and so the door is still open for spiritual ways of existing, ways of understanding, ways of existing in, and ways of understanding the universe.